Yeah, welcome, colleagues, to our inaugural management, general management, and leadership 101 conversation. Congratulations to our host, Mr. Divesh Mosilal, and his co host, George Mutenda Zamera. And then, of course, our special guests that they will introduce to you. Mine is to welcome the viewers and the listeners to Comesa Global Online channels, specifically to our Comesa Radio Worldwide listeners and the viewers of Comesa Television Network. Over to my co-hosts, Divesh and George, to start the show for us. Over to
Thank
you,
you.
my colleagues.
Thank, thank you, Sam. As Sam has mentioned, I want to also welcome the guests who are watching this video and also those who will be listening to this through our various radio streams. My name is Divesh Motilal, and as Sam also mentioned, our show today is the Management and Leadership 101, where we, through the insight and experience of our guests, hope to share specific sectoral management and leadership knowledge, opportunities, and challenges. And Cometsa Radio Worldwide is a business, entrepreneurship, and professional management services 24/7 streaming internet radio broadcasting from South Africa to the rest of the world. And through our shows, we instill the concept of what we call the idea, where stands for we inform and entertain, the D we develop and educate, the E we empower and support, the A we associate and network. Well, that's what we call the idea. So as I said, I'm your host, Divesh Motilal. I'm a seasoned engineer, a mentor with over 10 years of working experience, both in the government as well as in another 10 years of experience in the private sector. I have a master's degree in technology management from University of Pretoria. I've got an honors degree in electrical engineering from University of Pretoria. And I'm currently finishing a master's in mechanical engineering, specializing in renewable energy at Stellenbosch University. I've had various training sessions in Spain, Dubai, China, Germany, India, Ivory Coast, as well as the United States of America. I'm also a project management professional as well as a certified energy management professional. My co-host for today is Mr. George Mutandazamera, and I'd just like to hand over to George, who can introduce himself before we introduce our very special guest. Over to you, George.
Yes, thank you very much, Devesh. It's an honor really to be here and to be able to be a co-host to this show. As much as I'm a co-host, today I'm all ears. I want to hear about energy because I really believe it's a very integral part of the growth of our continent. And if we get that right, we're flying. And so I'm a CEO and founder at Vula Unlock Consulting. We're a coaching business and I focus on business, executive, and life coaching. I also my background is law. I'm a lawyer by training, but I migrated into coaching, and I'll never look back. I love the thing, and co-hosting is also an opportunity for us to share with you listeners the things that we think are important and the things that we know you want to hear about and develop yourself. So here we go today. Looking forward to it. I think you want to get your cup of coffee or tea and listen because this is a very, very important subject. So, welcome and thank you very much.
Thank you, George. The rationale behind today's show is we looking at sharing knowledge, looking at best practice in industry, opportunities and challenges. The energy sector, of which our guest is considered an expert and a leader, is a vital part and stimulus for the economy. And as we all know, South Africa is going through a lot of challenges in this sector, which has a ripple effect on the entire economy. the sector has been faced with numerous challenges and has brought both opportunities as well as further challenges. Today on our show, we'll be looking at a part of the energy sector, and our very special guest is Mr. Devin Pillay. He is the Group CEO of LTM Energy, a registered Tier 1 ESCO. He is the President of the Energy Services Companies Association of South Africa and a member of the University of Johannesburg Advisory Board, as well as the University of Pretoria and the University of KwaZulu-Natal. I extend a warm welcome to my guest, and if my guest can just tell us about himself a bit more and then explain to us what is a energy savings company. Over to you, David.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope whatever we discuss today will be helpful for the listeners out there. I think the green economy is very topical these days, and I think if you know, a lot of the phrases are being used, and green economy is used as a cliche these days. But what does it mean, and how can we work in harmony together to support the green economy? I think I'd like to, you know, focus on that, and that's what we're all about. Just a little bit about my background. You know, I spent over 20 years in Eskom. I left there as a senior manager, came exactly 20 years, and I said, hold on. Eskom is about, you know, one of the biggest utility companies in Africa, if not the world. It's about conventional dirty power and how can we move into clean energy. And that was the focus. And I said, okay, it's time to leave and make a difference out there. So the birth of LTM culminated in supporting the green economy. And that was very important to me to make a difference out there. How do we support future generations? I think that was a key message in terms of how we leverage off each other's strength to make that difference. Okay, so I'm open to some of the questions that you would ask me in terms of what we do and how we can have a ripple effect into Africa. I think that's important. From the ESCO Association that you mentioned, I just want to just table, I am the current president. It's a 2-year 2 years time, then I'll hand over the reins to the vice president. And the ESCO Association is an organ of state that best represents the ESCOs. ESCOs are energy services companies that are promoting the green economy, right? And there are different tiers of ESCOs that qualify in terms of the more experienced ESCOs being tier 1, and the less experienced ESCOs being tier 3. So those are organ of state representing the membership of our members being ESCOs, and how we train and develop them and migrating to tier 1. That's just briefly about the ESCO and a little bit about my background. I am a professional engineer with a master's in engineering, currently doing my doctorate in engineering, everything supporting the green economy. Presented papers in the USA, in Europe, and Australia, New Zealand, rest of the world, and everything about sustainability.
Thank you, David.
Can I just ask you,
George?
If I'm sitting in Mpumalanga there, and you're talking green economy, what does that mean?
Yes, I think that's a very important question. There's everybody talks about it in a different way, and for me, the green economy just touches on the surface about going green. You hear about companies going green, or their home user going green. So there's different connotations. One is where you practice the basic energy efficiency measures and about embracing renewable energy, and to a degree that you're still reliable on conventional power, being Eskom power, but there's an element of what degree you get to greening the various initiatives in your home. And we can talk about initiatives down the line. So that is the sort of middle of the road, whereas the extreme is to live off the grid. And we have companies that would want to go off the grid. There are pledges out there where they are looking at totally harnessing renewable energy as the source of power. So that is going green to a different level where it's totally off the grid. So there's various ways. It's not only about solar and about wind, because you know the wind doesn't blow all the time or the sun doesn't shine all the time. So you need to augment it with cleaner energy. And there's different ways of augmenting it with other mix of energy where it's like pipe hydro. For example, putting turbines in the pipe and generating around a third of Eskom conventional power in South Africa, or utility conventional power being dirty energy. There you're going totally embracing renewables to go off the grid. So the extent of going green from a personal point of view or from a company perspective has different measures. But then the economy, the green economy goes wider than that, because it's not about the individual or about the company. It's about, if you heard about the C40 cities, that's a pledge made by cities, major cities throughout the world, the C40 cities, to be carbon neutral by 2030. And 2030 is not too far, less than a decade away, to become carbon neutral. And that is quite an onerous pledge, right? So how do you deliver that? Now talking about moving from individuals to companies and now cities. You'll hear the phrases being smart cities. Now that is another cliche being used. What is the definition of smart cities? But let's first handle your question about green economy. So these are initiatives taken not only by individuals, by corporates, by cities, by government, to promote the green economy and how you can stimulate jobs. If these are the various initiatives driven by various stakeholders, as I mentioned, be it corporate, be it small customers, be it cities, there will be jobs that will be created, support sustainability measures, and that will stimulate the economy in a different direction from from brown to green. And that is where we talk about the green being stimulated, not the conventional economy where you talk about, okay, jobs being created because of conventional dirty energy.
Just in line as well with what you were speaking about, Devin, and what George asked, the green economy. Even though there is huge unemployment in South Africa, I do understand you have a platform and a paradigm shift, if I could put it that way, which is looking at creating that part of the green economy, looking at the entire value chain of taking unemployed or stimulating the creation of a business. Can you tell us about your H factor, which you've developed in your company?
Sure. So what we've been doing, and it's very important what you said before I go to the H factor, training and development is key. We see that lacking, and there are corporates out there, there are companies out there that want to just get experienced people but don't understand the fundamentals. That you need to train and develop the youth to create sustainability. People are not born an engineer. It is that transition that needs to take place. And that is key. As I mentioned about different ESCOs out there, from a more experienced ESCOs, which is tier 1, to the less experienced, which is tier 3. We need to embrace that they are inexperienced, that if we nurture them and train them to migrate the path from a tier 3 to tier 1. Likewise, personally, you get people born, you gain knowledge over time. And how do you nurse the youth to train them and develop them? And that's key. The H factor support, and the H factor that we developed was going around. We wanted to start in South Africa and then migrate into Africa, okay? And it's a pity that COVID, quite a crisis situation globally, not only in South Africa, and we did the first one in the barnyard where we got all the youth, the SMMEs, as well as come together and how we impart knowledge to them. Very important what H factor means. H factor is the human factor. Is that the H factor, there's power in us as individuals to take control rather than letting utilities take control of our lives. We as individuals, as a collective, or as users of various power users, we should decide what we deem good for the environment and that can become sustainable going into the future. So the H factor is about the human factor. The power lies in our hands to make a difference and to take control. The power lies in our hands in what source of energy we choose. The power lies in our hands for what we invest our time and energies, for example, training and development. The power lies in our hands to work in harmony together to recognize what is good for the world and what is bad, and especially the earth that we live on, which is crying out for help right now, with the carbon footprint increasing from year to year. And it's, there's different messages that nature is sharing with us, especially with the disasters that are happening. And these are deemed natural disasters, but we know that it is not.
Thank you, Devin. Can you also expand a bit on the platform which your organization has to actually help and assist up-and-coming entrepreneurs to develop their business as well as to develop the market for the renewable energy as well as energy efficiency sectors?
Sure. So we are a tier 1 ESCO, the more experienced ESCOs around the country. There's only a few experienced ESCOs, because of the thriving green economy. George's first question about what is a green economy, we know that it's going to grow. It's going to be trillions of dollars that's going to be invested in the green economy. You've seen Elon Musk invest in the green economy. So there's going to be a fundamental game changer in that environment. Okay. In terms of our company, how we invest and want to train and develop others and growing the chain, it's not about isolation. There's in harmony in working together and training and develop, because if you have, for example, our company has been given a national contract by one of the major banks. It's out there, so I can even state that, FNB and RMB. We have a national rollout. Nashua is looking at national rollout. And this national rollout is for green solutions throughout the country, whether it's small businesses or whether it's homes. One of the biggest barriers is access to fund, because you need to initially have a capital outlay. Now, the beauty of these banks, whether it's private banks or development banks coming to the party, it's about ensuring you reduce the barrier to entry. Imagine this: if you have an asset that can generate savings, and the savings pay for your installments, it's a no-brainer, and you keep that asset forever. Let's say it's 10 to 20 years. It is a no-brainer, and you're embracing clean energy instead of dirty energy. So it's an asset, it's a green asset, if you can call it such. But now, as a company, we cannot do a national rollout. It's so huge. I mean, this program can be driven into Africa if nurtured very well. And our counterparts in Africa should wake up and say, how do we harmonize here? Because it's a great thing. How do we work together as a collective, as one? All those various different companies. So it's a national rollout. And what we can do is take the experienced ESCOs out there, assist us to do this national rollout. Okay, we because of the centralized procurement and economies of scale dictate we can get a good rate. How do we now get the smaller ESCOs involved where they train with the bigger ESCOs, and then they support this as an African initiative, as a collective? This would be great. It's not only FNB and RMB as bankers that can support this. There's other commercial banks that would be involved here. It's actually a no-brainer, because if your savings is more than your installment, why isn't everybody doing it? Because you are seeing the benefit from day one without your capital outlay. It's with the banks financing it and stimulating the green economy. So there's two parts to it. One is from a financing perspective. Two, we need agents of change. And the agents of change comes into ESCOs. ESCOs like us, experienced, immediate, or the less experienced ESCOs, then we develop them. Why not do it as an African initiative? We have only one life. We came with nothing, we die with nothing. But what we do and make a difference, it's up to us as individuals, as companies, as a collective in how we harmonize. And that's so important. This can be truly an African initiative in lighting up Africa in many ways by embracing clean, green energy that can make a difference to this world.
Divesh, if I may just come in, if you don't
Sure,
mind,
Sam.
I'm very excited about the opportunities that
Very
are in this
excited.
sector. What are the challenges for those who want to enter this industry? Are there obvious entry barriers that we need to be aware of? And how does your association assist those who want to come into this? Because I feel we don't want to lose this opportunity as you have presented it, as a country and as a continent.
I think there are various challenges. And one of the fundamental challenges lies in policy. Government policy drives various behavior. And we're fortunate. We are fortunate, and you're seeing this change right now where, from a climate change perspective, lots of countries are subscribing to climate change mitigation, and that's coming into different policies driven worldwide, globally. And it's coming down to country level, where policy changed, like in this country, in South Africa, you see a policy where there's tax incentives for going green, 12L and 12B. And that is just the carrot. There's carbon credits where you can earn carbon credits for projects that you're working on that supports the green economy. If you can reduce your carbon footprint, carbon credits that can be linked to it. Of course, I don't want to get into the detailed criteria. Then on the whip side, you got your carrots and you got your whip. Your whip side, there's carbon tax. And if you do not do this, the right thing from a corporate responsibility, you are imposed with carbon tax. Then there's compliance reporting. There's either King 4 sustainability reporting, or what we have in this country is greenhouse gas compliance reporting, which is mandatory. Recently, government put in a measure where it's energy performance certificates for buildings that over 2,000 square meters, that you need to have an energy performance certificate. So you know how you measure against best practice, and that you need to ensure that you drive efficiency behaviors, okay? So it's never had before. It became mandatory late last year. So from a policy perspective, I like the fact that you got incentives and you got punitive measures. So the carrot, it is absolutely a no-brainer. There's a push and pull. Where would you run? Instead of being whipped, why don't you enjoy the carrots? So that is a behavior that one should actually drive to go towards the carrot mentality and to be rewarded with going green from a policy side. Then coming back, I think policy is very key. But it does not stop there. In the absence of policy, you can't sit back and say, okay, I can see climate change happening in front of me. and I don't care. When you look at other generations and the generations that are to come, and you don't have that responsibility, there's no human dignity left in you as a don't care person. That caring nature and that responsible thing to do is to make that difference for future generations to come and leave this planet in a better shape and form when you came on, which is not happening, unfortunately. If you look at the climate change impact right now, which is astonishing, the facts and figures, and we can go into those statistics in terms of how many people got access to clean energy, how many people got access to clean water, which is a basic need. The nexus of life is energy, water, and food. Starvation. How about us as human beings working together to focus on the nexus of life? So don't just rely on policy. It's about doing the right thing is important. But here's the brilliant thing. In the absence of policy and in the absence of doing the right thing, if I had to tell you it is savings in your pocket, there's an asset that can give you money in your pocket. I mean, companies are out there because of the trying times, because a lot of countries are in recession because of the pandemic or other factors. They are faced with two issues: reduce staff or close up, so you reduce your operational cost. But imagine this, and this is not imagination because we are doing it. We are proof. If you go into our website, there are case examples where you take an asset, a green asset, whether it's a renewable asset or energy efficiency asset, the savings can be more than the installment. Now, I don't want to get into financial details, but your net present value is positive from day one. That means you don't have to use your money, right? And that's the financial barrier we discussed. It can earn savings from day one by just going green.
How big is this market? If I may come in there, Devin, how big is this energy sector market now, and what is the potential if you have people like Elon Musk coming into a market like this? The potential must be huge. And then lastly, what is the role of small business, and how is your organization encouraging small business to look in this direction?
Sure. So there's two things. The market is as big as you want it, right? If you take, let's call it the brown market and the green market for simplicity, right? The brown market is where the traditional conventional energy, being oil, being gas, being coal-fired, and the green market being solar, wind, hydro, okay? So we understand those are top. If you take all the brown market and move that opportunity to the green market, the world is there's a transition happening. It's called a just transition. But it means that there's job loss in the brown market, but the green market is being stimulated. You do it in the most appropriate way, and people, we train and develop them where they focus on the brown market to come into the green market, and train and develop them with the newer technologies. So the market is as huge as man wants to make it. It's going to take people, entrepreneurs like our company, like Elon Musk, to make that just transition and to lead and to show that it can be done. If you know, in 10 years ago, electric vehicles was not mooted around. But now electric vehicles is trending up. You can see that transition happening. You see that suppliers like Philips and Osram, etc., were not focused 20 years ago on efficiency. Now they are driving efficiency measures, whether it's street lighting, whether it's home lighting or commercial lighting. You can see the transition happening. So that's going to happen. And I'm afraid if people are stuck in the brown economy, they can be stuck there and not see the fruits that are being bared in the green economy, not only because it's the right thing, there's such an opportunity to embrace with the green economy. It's unimaginable. I would say the skies are the limit. The skies are definitely the limit. Okay.
Wow.
Coming back into how we stimulate the SMME market. So we're working with banks, as you meant. We spoke about FNB, RMB. Coca-Cola is our number 1 client, and we're proud to be associated with the likes of Coca-Cola, Nestle, who are international brands. We're proud to be associated with even Netcare, who's into Africa, Netcare hospitals. We just done about 13 Netcare hospitals to get, to go green by embracing solar energy, clean solar energy. But the bottleneck is there's not enough of ESCOs to support the green economy. But it's a good gap to have, because then there's an opportunity for many companies out there to go green and to be the agent of change to go green. So with the banks being involved, with corporates like Coca-Cola, they invest money into stimulating and training the SMME market. We can provide the government organs of state like CETA, which is a training organization, belongs to government, working on training and developing companies such as ourselves or inexperienced companies. Now we're also constantly training and developing ourselves. And thank goodness we have OEMs that were willing to train and develop, whether it's their technology or other that's coming on board with us. So it's a multitude of stakeholders that require to come together and stimulate the SMME market and make a difference. All I can say, the SMME market must realize there is that transition happening from the brown to the green.
One of the challenges which you've also identified, and I know yourself and your company are working towards fixing, is that of sharing of information. A lot of people don't understand this opportunity. They're just used to the usual. And especially in South Africa, there is a huge amount of opportunities where even companies don't recognize that there's this energy savings potential. When you mention green, they usually tend towards the negative rather than to the positive. What I wanted to just put on the table as a discussion point was many people don't see water and its linkage to energy per se, which is usually electricity. Can you explain to us and the viewers the link that water savings and some of the experiences you've had with some of your clients where they actually were saving and benefiting from looking at water as an actual energy source?
Sure. So I'm glad, as I mentioned, the nexus of life being energy, water, water and sanitation is closely linked together. So maybe I could address both of them if you want to, otherwise I'll keep them separate if you want to do that. So just touching on water, you have water efficiencies and you have water harvesting. Like energy as a resource, an important resource to improve quality of life, and you can see that. I mean, we find in Africa, where the African Development Bank, the number one priority is lighting up Africa from an energy perspective, because access to energy. But access to water is more critical because the climate change and the water scarcity, it is huge in Africa, and the concern is going into the future. What's going to happen, whether we'll have sufficient water. And water is critical to life, more important than energy right now. But some would argue the point, because you need energy to get clean water, right? So we are embracing clean energy like solar. And instead of conventional pumps that you use that require dirty energy, we can change that to solar pumps. And we're doing a rollout with Coca-Cola, for example, in the most rural areas where they're providing access, embracing clean energy and providing access to clean water for communities out there. And this can be driven for the whole of Africa. So we're using those pumps for boreholes, to pump water out of those boreholes to generate water for the communities that never had water, access to clean water. So there again, you can see how energy and water, they say energy and water don't mix. You can understand when you get your electrical circuit and you put water on that's crazy what happens then, right? But there's that I say there's that fine line in how you embrace the clean energy to generate clean water. Now there's other measures that we're doing beside the boreholes. There's water from air solution. I mean, like if you think of air cons and the amount of water that drips out from an air con, what we can do, all right, we take that water and we harness that water, okay, and we take clean water from the air, but with technology, clean technologies that we can arrange and ensure some of the viable projects focuses on water harnessing. There's various other measures as well. Besides water from air solutions, beside boreholes, there's also grey water, rainwater harvesting that you look at, okay? Some of the important measures in the water side. From an efficiency perspective, various measures sort of where you have, if you take a low flow regulators, where it can cut down, if you put them in your homes, you can use 50% less water. But the fact that you're cutting down on water consumption, you're also cutting down on your energy consumption because you're using less energy. Now, the most powerful advice that anyone can take today, in today's session, it's a low flow regulator. It costs less than 10 rands, right? It works as a principle of, think of a hose pipe. If with a nozzle, you have high pressure. Without the nozzle, you have low pressure. This device creates that high pressure. When you have a shower, what do you enjoy most? It's about pressure on you, right? It's about pressure on you. So this little device, less than 10 rands, can cut your water consumption by up to 50%, give you the desired pressure, and you're using less energy and less water. Now, this should be freely issued to the whole of Africa as the first important measure. Don't focus on harvesting more water, focus on being efficient first. They say first conservation as the low-hanging fruit, then efficiency, and then harnessing clean renewable energy. That's the sort of hierarchy that you would work on. Now, like there's energy efficient, the low flow regulators or energy efficient shower heads. There's so many initiatives. Just go into our website and you'll see.
Divesh and George, this is so amazing. I'm enjoying this conversation because I go back into my rural Sekhukhune region where when it rains, it's a great opportunity for us to harvest water. Now I'm just thinking of how creative can we be that we can come up with technologies on harvesting water for rural areas, that we don't just sit out and cry out for the government to give us tap water, pipes. It's a topic on its own, but when you talk about the harvesting of water, is one opportunity that I think traditionally we used to do it, but now it's more so important because we cannot afford to have a water shortage crisis in Africa. It's a topic on its own, but I'm just glad you're talking about harvesting water, which is one part, and then we're using water efficiently, which is another part. And there is opportunities for small entrepreneurs from rural areas that could be developed by technologies which I'm just thinking widely. You know better as engineers what can be done in that area. And I don't know what, George, what you traveled all over Africa during your days as a corporate person. You must have come across situations where you felt, you know what, something can be done better here.
Yeah, I traversed Africa, and I can tell you that water is a key resource. And you're telling me now about using a small device to improve our efficiencies. That is something that I would love to be getting involved in, not from a point of running a business, but getting the message across to people, to get this program to be heard by as many people as possible, that hey, there's small things that you can do which bring you very high returns. So I'm really fascinated, Devon. I'm really thrilled that we brought this up. And Devish, I don't know what you think, but for me, this is a critical one, and we really need to, I think, get Devon back here at some stage and go into more detail with some of those things, because it really is mind blowing. It's very important.
Yeah. George,
Yes, George.
if I could step in to just latch on to your comment here. If we can develop the whole Africa initiative, let's take pride and joy. Africa is a beautiful continent. And if we can work in harmony together, cross the barriers, whether it's geographical barriers, racial barriers, etc., how we can take the lead and work together, get the experience. I mean, there's many other competent, very experienced companies like ourselves that we spearhead a change, a game changer, and work together in harmony. Let's start off the initiative now. It starts off in small ways and make that huge difference that we can for Africa itself. Africa is crying out right now. It's crying out for millions of people that do not have access to basic energy, water, basic needs. And when I talk basic, please do not misunderstand that we need to give them inferior quality of energy. We give them clean, green energy that can give them the benefit that they so deserve. It's basic need with the right quality, not to compromise quality. And they're crying out loud for that. Government is not doing or cannot get to electrifying and energizing. I don't like to use the word electrifying because it's linked to electricity, and electricity deemed more conventional electricity. I talk about energizing, and I talk about, let's talk about water. And we can do that. If you have, although the nexus of life is energy, water, and food, if you have energy and water, we showed in the rural areas how you can use the energy and water farming. Then you have food. You have sustainability. So how about us starting that change to making the difference for Africa?
Wow. Rural Economic Development 101.
100%. Banks like African Development Bank are very supportive. High on the agenda is lighting up Africa. But let's make it happen. Let's utilize the funding that's available, and there's international funding that's available, right? And there's local funding that's available. And to bring that together and say, okay, let's do it in a coordinated, orchestrated way that brings the difference. Because there are companies out there that don't know how, that they're waiting to know how, and we can impart that knowledge. There are companies that know how, who are waiting to impart that knowledge, but not given the right forum, the right platform. How do we create that platform to make that difference?
And Devon, as you rightfully said, the challenge of getting water to those who need the water the most, and of course sanitation services as well, is often said that there's no electricity there, so we can't provide the water there. But where we do have water and electricity, there's huge opportunities to make it more efficient. I mean, I can share as well that in any municipality in South Africa, the biggest consumer of electricity is the water services department. So producing the water to your tap and treating your wastewater, they are by far the biggest consumers of energy in any municipality in South Africa. So as you've been mentioning, Devin, the opportunities to make the systems more efficient is the first step. It's a no-brainer, as you said. Make it more efficient so you release that energy from where it's being wasted and divert it then towards lighting up of Africa, lighting up of South Africa, where we don't have electricity in some areas. I wanted to just touch on one of your projects in line with the water, which was with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I'm not sure if you want to tell us about that project and how is it going?
Sure. So the technology, a few years ago when we were invited through the Water Research Commission to go to Beijing, and there we met with Bill Gates himself, and he had 20 different technologies, the latest technologies, which are game-changing technologies. Okay, and the game-changing technologies in the focus area being sanitation. Now, if you know what's happening with pit toilets and the safety hazards that come with the pit toilets, where people, especially the young, are dying, whether it's in schools or other, it's a safety hazard. And it's so unfortunate that at this point in time, we are using an outdated technology and putting our youth at risk, which don't make sense, really don't make sense. So we are privileged and proud to be associated with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, because one of the ethos of our company, because we will not just use any technology, it must support the ethos of our company being sustainability as a focus and high priority in the agenda. So we come across, you know, if you think about what we have, there's two parts of sanitation. Zoom into a toilet, the front end system and the back end system. And the front end system being like, if you talk your tank and the flush, right? You flush the toilet, okay? Now, a conventional toilet uses about 9 liters, over 9 liters per flush. The latest technologies use 1 liter per flush. We have technologies, and then in the back end, you can take urine and convert it to energy, or take your poo and turn it into compost. Now, sustainability that's linked into that, right? You can go even waterless. You don't need to use water in a flush, a vacuum, right? So those are the technologies that we have, and we are privileged and proud to say that in July, the technologies arrive here, which is the pilot, which is funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and through the Water Research Commission, as you know, another key stakeholder and a technology partner. We have Prof. Meng from Germany and Prof. Xian from China involved as key stakeholders to make this possible. And if successful, not only roll out in South Africa, but roll out into Africa. Why wouldn't the whole world, especially, I mean, we've seen the first world very advanced. Why should we remain as third world country? What's stopping us? It's a lack of initiative. The technology is there. We need some level of customization, and we can make it a reality to roll us out into Africa and make that possible. We talk about not dependent on importing all the time. We can locally manufacture this and jobs. And that is now stimulating the green economy. So we spoke about energy. We spoke about water. We're talking about access to clean energy, access to clean water. Now we're talking about sanitation as a game changer.
Devin, staying with, sorry, George. Devin, staying with the sanitation, are there technologies for disposing of the what's the right weight? You've talked about the flushing and that, but we don't have, what do they call it, this facilities to process this waste. And also I'm interested in technologies to dispose, because I don't think the rural areas will have resources to have processing plants to produce manure out of the poo. But you have people very interested in having this system around their houses that they can help themselves. But then you find that the disposing creates hazards to the environment. If we can have technologies that process this waste, that doesn't become a problem, but it becomes a byproducts. I'm sure you get what I'm talking about. I'm tempted to talk my language that will make it clear, understandable what I'm talking about. It's one thing to have a process that you help yourself with, but it's another thing to disposing so that you don't contaminate the environment.
Sure.
And you produce byproducts that gives you opportunities to sell manure to the farmers, something like that.
Sure. Yes. I'm glad you state that. There's a couple things to address that, right? Let's talk, I will start with urban and move to rural, because it's two different ways of handling it. We've got some case studies where we took from, you have canteens, and of course you got lots of food, and there's a lot of wastage happening. We take that organic, the food itself, and put it into a technology that at the output is compost. And then that customer, we showed it in F&B, where they got zero to landfill. So instead of paying gate fees, there's zero waste to landfill. So this technology, once you put in food waste, output is compost. So they keep compost for themselves, because it's an 80,000 square meterage building. It's quite a big land. And then whatever excess they give out to the local community, or they sell it off. Okay, so you have that. There's also a situation where we're working with the university, where 1 megawatt, what we're taking, the campus as university has lots of waste, and we're turning that into energy, what we call anaerobic biodigesters. We're putting into it, and we had some funding, 9 million rand from DTI, to take this and turn it into energy, right? So you're getting those extremes, where one is compost and you're taking it into energy. We have a situation where you can take municipal waste, sort it out, and it will generate high calorific value pellets, which you can use for building homes, right? Low-cost homes, or you can take those pellets and use that for generating energy again, right? Let's shift it to the rural areas and what's the need there. And as I say, if farming is not the initiative to use compost, then there are companies out there. You know, they say you want to strike gold, and people refer gold as the metal. But what's going to happen, the great game changer, you're going to find waste is going to be the new gold. So if people invest and look at waste as not as waste anymore, they see it as a huge opportunity where they collect this waste, and with the amount of waste that they collect, right, with the amount of volumes, you can do anything is a reality, anything is a possibility, because whether it's energy, you bring it to a centralized point. So you take away, there's companies that now would collect this different waste, whether it's plastic, etc., and turn it into value, whether it's bottles, whether it's plastic, whether it's food waste, and turn it into value. And that's going to be game changers that's going to happen from a collection point of view.
Thank you, Devin. We will break now for a news bulletin, and we will come back to Devin and pick up on some of these exciting and interesting opportunities and knowledge sharing that's taking place. Thank you to my listeners and my viewers and still stay tuned for the next part of the show. Thank you.
Wow. While we count down to the news wow, sure. I guess it's at this point that we just need to bring the temperature a little bit down. George, you're sitting there and you sound like
climate change.
George,
Temperature is
I'm
up
looking
through
at
climate
George.
change.
I'm actually looking at George. He looks so stunned. You know, I'm asking myself.
Yeah. Let me tell you, you have talked about so many opportunities that we could share with not with just South Africa, but with the huge African market to benefit an entire community of millions of people. But what I would like to hear from you as we go into when we come back, what are the blockages? Because it makes so much sense to someone listening to say it's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
We should be
absolutely.
picking up and running with this before you even blink.
Yeah,
But
the way Devin has presented this topic, he made it it is so beautiful, I mean, it's like, he says, don't look as waste as a waste, it's the new gold. Can you imagine how many people will rush to this new gold? Everywhere you see waste and paper, and you're like, how do I collect? Divesh, yeah, wow. I know we're done with this first segment, but I'm just wanting to sharpen our appetites, if I may use that, for the next round when we come back. I actually would like us to really look at the solutions. And you have raised so many opportunities, and I'm sure I'm transformed, and I'm sure our viewers and listeners are also being transformed. But I'm just thinking now, I come across so many potential entrepreneurs that they are ready to become entrepreneurs, but they don't know in what. So when we come back, I want to touch on that. David, this is beautiful, my friend. We are not continuing this segment. I'm just sort of like wanting to make sure that when we come back, we put it in the right perspective, taking it forward. So you have shared with us all this. So what? What do you see as the next things to touch on when we come back, Divesh? And for David to sort of like deep into his reservoir of so much insights, knowledge, and potential solutions.
What we intended to do is we spoke of the what can be done, the what part, and obviously Devin has also alluded to companies like himself who would assist those who want to do something. So we know what needs to be done, we know who. So the how part would be handled by demonstrating projects that have already been done, substantive projects in South Africa even, that Devin them have done, which can outline the types of things that have been done and have worked, and how people working in that value chain have benefited. So that would be the second half.
I also want to give Dev an opportunity at the end of the next segment that he gives contact details of the association, because I really want us to get as many people as possible who wants to go into business to become involved, even if they are not sure what they want to do in the energy sector, just to follow the work of the association, but also Devin's own company. And I've read in Devin's profile that he's doing a lot of social entrepreneurship projects, sponsoring students. And I guess those students, Devin, those are your target people that will become entrepreneurs. But let's hold it here. When we come back, we will take it to the next level. I'm enjoying this, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. We will be back
Fascinating.
after the break.